David Ornstein, football correspondent for The Athletic. Welcome to the conversation. We're talking about those teams in the mix for the top four. Arsenal looking good after that 4-0 win over Norwich on Wednesday night. Could they make it into the top four?
I don't think they will. Not because they're not on good form, not because they haven't got momentum or quality, but I think they've left themselves with too much work to do. Their run of fixtures coming up are pretty menacing. They've got the FA Cup to think about as well, obviously carrying some injuries too. So I'm pleasantly surprised by how well they've reacted to losing those first two games. We've seen so many times with Arsenal over the years when they suffer a couple of defeats, they go into turmoil, and they had, pretty difficult backdrop to that first defeat at City, when we sort of reported after the event that they had suffered disruption with a COVID positive test and two others who were quarantined. 3 players missed training in the build up to that. In that match, they suffered 2 injuries. They then suffered a third at Brighton. Felt like everything was exploding under Arteta, and that he'd lost so much of the momentum he'd built up before the lockdown. And then in these last 3 games, I'm really very impressed. Going to Southampton, where they've not had a great record in recent years. That's where Unai Emery lost his unbeaten record when he took over as Arsenal manager in, I think, December 2018. And Sheffield United in the Cup. Okay, they haven't got their fans at Bramall Lane, but that was not an easy task. And then yesterday against Norwich, it was impressive, but it was the first time they'd beaten a team to the extent of 4-0 since maybe the 2017-18 season under Wenger. So feels like something is happening there, and they would have been boosted by the West Ham win against Chelsea, of course. But I just think they've left themselves with a bit too much work to do to get into the Champions League, even if Manchester City's ban stands.
David, so many questions. So many questions. So let me start with something off the pitch, because Matteo Guendouzi, another game last night. You've written with a lot of insight for The Athletic about Arsenal as a football club. And it looks very much as though Arteta is stamping his authority on and off the pitch, because he's making a statement by not playing either Ozil or Guendouzi. Start with Guendouzi first.
Yeah, Matteo Guendouzi, I think it looks like his time at Arsenal is coming to an end. Adrian's written about how Arsenal are offering him in exchange for players they might like to come in swap deals. It doesn't need me to say, but that story's true. Adrian wrote a brilliant piece on it, accurate as always. And he's had a sort of litany of incidents, hasn't he? There was a couple of moments on their Dubai winter training camp where Arteta hauled him over the coals, so to speak. I think there have been some other incidents in training where his general standards of behaviour haven't been up to scratch. There was a backdrop to this because he had some incidents at his previous club, Lorient. I think he moved there as a youngster from the PSG academy. And so he's clearly a raw talent with some complications around his behaviour. And, Mikel Arteta is not going to be told what to do with this player. He's going to make his own decisions. And if he doesn't think that this very talented young player is worth the time, if they as a club think that they could bring in money, significant money, or a big swap deal, then clearly that's something they've thought through. And as things stand, I think there's a good chance he'll be leaving.
Yeah, Ozil as well. Good chance he'll be leaving too. Big money, lots of fans, split really on what he has contributed to the side. Arteta this week pre-match saying all the right things about him, but clearly he doesn't believe that he can contribute enough to what Arsenal are trying to do.
Well, he's been carrying a genuine back injury over the last 2 games. So, that's ruled him out on that occasion. But we can't get away from the fact that he doesn't appear to have been in favour since the restarts. He's barely been involved. Has he been involved at all? I don't know if he was on the bench, wasn't he, at Southampton? And it was a bit of a surprise, really, given how much he was featuring under Arteta before lockdown. fairly early on during lockdown, he had a baby, and so he didn't take part in. I don't think he was taking part in absolutely every training session that some other players were. And so they were deemed to have been sharper. The example that was used to me was somebody like Reece Nelson, who had been in all the training sessions at top intensity. And there was no sort of hard feelings about that. I think Arteta will give every player a chance on merit. But equally, he's not going to pick on reputation. But Mesut Ozil won't be leaving this coming transfer window as much as Arsenal would like it. He's made very clear in the interview I did with him in October, in subsequent comments from his representatives, that they're staying until the end of the contract in 2021. When I hear people who Arsenal are looking to move on, and people Arsenal looking to bring in and who might be going out, or players that they would listen to offers for, one of those that I never hear mentioned is Mesut Ozil. I think, of course, they would like to do business for him if they could, and that would help save £350,000 a week from his from the wage bill. But they don't see, judging by his comments and his feelings, the possibility of that happening. So I think their plans are in the market are not involving Mesut Ozil leaving. And therefore, we'll just have to see if he gets back on the pitch. We know what Mesut Ozil's like. He can have a couple of good games and then suddenly he's flavour of the month again, and everybody's saying, oh, why doesn't he do this more regularly? And then we go through the cycle again. So yeah, I could see Guendouzi leaving, but I don't see Ozil leaving this coming window.
Just a couple of very quick ones. Aubameyang, I was at the game on Wednesday night. He said after the match to BT Sport, we'll see, when he was asked about his contract, just a year left there. It doesn't look as though he's going to sign. Are you optimistic?
I think he would like to sign, and I've reported that before, if there was a credible offer in front of him. I don't think there's an offer that he would be looking for in front of him as things stand. So he's not really got much to consider. That said, now they've got the Saka situation dealt with on the contractual front, I think they'll address the Aubameyang one. And it's a huge question. And I think he's happy in London. He loves it at Arsenal, but equally he'll want to win trophies at his age and his expectation. But the interest has to be there. It seems there's some from sort of Inter Milan and Juventus. Others may come forward when the window's open. Some of the club interest may back off. I think if Arsenal offer him a contract at the level he would expect, then he'll sign it. But that's a massive if.
Okay, and one last question on Arsenal before we move on. There's been some talk about Memphis Depay at Lyon coming in if either Lacazette or Aubameyang do leave. Do you think that's likely, given that he wasn't that much of a hit when he was at Manchester United last time around?
I'm not saying the story's not true, but it's not one that I know about. And I would be slightly surprised, although Arteta, among his desires, is looking for a wide player and potentially a centre-forward, depending on what happens with Lacazette and Aubameyang. I'm not sure Depay would be the one that they were looking for in terms of his style of play. It didn't go well for him at Manchester United, and I'm sure that's probably a bit of a mark, because it's not going to come cheap if they do sign him. So your track record is Holland and France. And so that is a bit of a risk. The profile of striker, if it was to say replace Lacazette, maybe. If it was to replace Aubameyang, no, I don't think he is replaceable in terms of his style of play. So I don't think there's, to my knowledge, I've not heard Depay mentioned at all, apart from those reports. So I can't add anything on that.
I believe you, don't worry. As far as...